The sky was heavy that morning, thick with gray clouds that made the magnolias bow their heads like mourners. I stood at the edge of the cemetery in Houston, my black dress clinging to me with the heat and the sorrow, my lace gloves damp in my palms. Folks from the church hummed low gospel behind me, their voices rising like incense, but my mind wasn't there with them. It was locked on that casket, a closed casket, which I never asked for, never approved. My husband Ellis, my partner of 45 years, was supposed to be lying inside, silent, gone. I reached into my purse to dab at my face when my phone buzzed. I frowned, thinking maybe it was one of the nieces checking in, but when I pulled it out, the message on the screen near stole the breath from my body. Clara, I am still alive. Trust no one, not even our boys. I gasped so loud. Reverend Lou turned his head. I forced a smile, waved a hand as if I'd just sneezed, but inside my whole world buckled. My knees went weak, and I had to grip the handle of the casket just to stay upright. My heart thudded like a church drum during revival, echoing in my ears. Alive? My Ellis alive? And warning me about our own sons? My fingers shook so bad I almost dropped the phone right there on the red Texas clay. The choir lifted into, "Precious Lord, take my hand." Oh, how many times Ellis and I sang that side by side, him humming bass while I carried the alto. My throat closed as tears pricked, not for grief this time, but for confusion and terror. If he was alive, what lay in that box we were burying? I looked around the crowd, faces blurred in the heavy heat. Marcus stood on one side, stiff in his too-tight suit, jaw clenched. Dwayne, my youngest, kept shifting from foot to foot, glancing at his watch like he was waiting for something more important than his daddy's farewell. Their wives whispered with each other, eyes darting my way like I was some old relic to be catalogued. Every smile felt false, every hug rehearsed. And now Ellis's words, the words of a man I trusted with every ounce of my soul, were telling me I couldn't lean on the very sons I'd brought into this world. I pressed my lips tight, swallowed hard, and whispered only to myself, Lord, guide me. Because right then, right there, I knew this funeral wasn't the end. It was the start of something I couldn't yet name. So, before you get comfortable, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you honestly enjoy these late-night confessions. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The pastor's voice droned on, quoting scripture about dust returning to dust. But my mind, oh my mind was racing. That message burned in my palm, searing me like it carried the heat of Ellis's own body. Was this some cruel prank? Or was it the only truth I had left? I leaned closer to the casket, pressing my hand against the cool wood, whispering low enough so no one but God could hear me. Ellis, baby, if you can hear me somehow, I'm listening. I'll find you. And with that, I lifted my head, spine straightened, and gave one last look at my boys, my heart splitting between love and suspicion. Because whatever came next, I wasn't burying my husband that day. No, I was burying the illusion that everything in this family was as it seemed. The service ended too fast. Folks filed past, patting my hand, murmuring, "Stay strong, Clara," like they were signing off from a script. I wanted to scream, to ask if they saw what I saw, the rush, the coldness, the way my own flesh and blood stood stiff like strangers. But I just nodded, folded my hands over my clutch, and let the crowd scatter back to their cars. Marcus and Dwayne lingered. Not beside me, no. They hovered near the funeral director like businessmen closing a deal. My Ellis had been dead or dead less than a week, and there they were asking about paperwork, about insurance. Their words carried on the hot wind, fragments slipping into my ear, expedited payout, policy number, probate court. Lord, my chest tightened. Those weren't the words of grieving sons. When they finally came over, Marcus leaned in for a hug, arms stiff like a mannequin. "Mama, you doing all right?" he asked, voice low but sharp, like he was measuring me. I rested my cheek against his shoulder, and for one small moment, I breathed in the scent of the boy I raised. The boy who used to fall asleep with sticky popsicle fingers in my lap. But then he pulled back too quickly, eyes already darting to his brother. Dwayne grabbed my hands. "Mama, don't worry about all this," he said, squeezing too hard. "We'll take care of the money side. Daddy wouldn't want you stressing." That was when I knew. The message wasn't lying. My sons were too calm, too quick, too ready to close the chapter, and Ellis, wherever he was, had seen it coming. Back at the house, the air hung thick with leftover perfume and cologne from visitors. Casseroles lined the counter, covered in foil, smelling of cheese and onions. I set a pot of collard greens to warm, hoping the familiar scent might anchor me. But as I stirred, my eyes landed on the stack of mail by the door, one envelope sticking out. Ellis's handwriting scrawled across it, though he'd supposedly been too weak to write these past months. My hand trembled as I reached for it. Before I could open it, Marcus and Dwayne barged in with their wives trailing behind. "Mama, you should think about moving," Marcus announced, like it was just another chore. "This house is too much for you now. We can sell it fast. Make sure you're set up somewhere nice." Dwayne added, "Maybe one of those retirement communities, safe, easy living. You deserve it." Their wives, standing behind them, nodded eagerly, eyes roaming over my furniture like appraisers. My mama's cedar chest, Ellis's record collection, the quilt I stitched through one long winter, all of it suddenly looked like merchandise in a store they already thought they owned. I pressed my spoon against the pot, grounding myself in the smell of smoked turkey necks flavoring the greens. "Boys," I said slowly, voice low but steady, "your daddy's body ain't been in the ground one full day, and y'all already trying to pack me up like old china? Don't insult me." Marcus bristled. Dwayne smirked like I'd just told a joke. But me? I went quiet, the kind of quiet that makes people nervous, because my mind was already working. I'd seen this play before, folks moving too fast when there's money on the table, hearts colder than their smiles. Ellis had warned me, and now my spirit warned me too. I had to keep my eyes sharp and my mouth sharper. That night, after they left, I sat alone in the living room. The collards had gone cold. I tore open that envelope at last. Inside was a folded paper, Ellis's handwriting, clear as day. "Clara, don't let them push you. Trust your instincts. They want more than they admit." I enclosed. I pressed the note to my chest, tears spilling. My Ellis was still out there, and my sons were not the boys I once rocked to sleep. The cicadas hummed outside. The house felt too big, too quiet, and I knew whatever storm was brewing, it had only just begun. That first night back in the house nearly swallowed me whole. The silence pressed down like a heavy quilt. I kept walking room to room, touching Ellis's things, his boots by the back door, his pipe tucked in the corner of the bookshelf, the dent his pillow still held. My heart wanted to crumble, but my mind kept circling that message. I set a plate of leftover fried chicken on the kitchen table, but I couldn't eat. The grease smell turned my stomach. Instead, I poured sweet tea, sat with the glass sweating in my hand, and stared at the drawer in the study that Ellis always kept locked. I'd asked him about it years ago, and he'd chuckled, saying, "Just old work files, baby, nothing worth your time." But now it called to me. I found the spare key taped under his desk, right where he used to hide emergency cash. My fingers shook as I slid it into the lock. The drawer creaked open like it hadn't been touched in months. Inside, papers, receipts, and one thick envelope marked, "In case of my death." I sat back, heart racing. Death, or disappearance, or whatever this was. Inside the envelope was a copy of Ellis's will, not the one filed at the courthouse, but a fresh version signed just weeks before. It named me sole heir. Everything, house, land, accounts, came to me. And tucked in the margins were scribbled notes in his handwriting. "Watch Marcus. Watch Dwayne. Pressure from within." I pressed my hand to my mouth, whispering, "Oh Lord." I read it 3 times, each word heavier than the last. My sons weren't just grieving poorly, they were circling me like wolves, and Ellis knew it before he vanished. The next morning, I brewed a pot of chicory coffee, the smell wrapping me up like an old hymn. As I sipped, I flipped through Ellis's receipts. Strange ones. Hardware store purchases for tools we never used. Hotel charges in towns he had no reason to visit. And a final slip, a large cash withdrawal just days before his accident. I tucked the papers back and locked the drawer, slipping the key into my apron pocket. Later that day, Marcus stopped by alone. He leaned against the doorframe, suit jacket still on, though the sun was blazing. "Mama, you should sign power of attorney. Let me handle things. It'll make all this easier." I narrowed my eyes. Easier for who? He flashed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. For you. For the family. Daddy would have wanted it. Something in me snapped. Your daddy would have wanted respect, and right now you're fresh out of it. He opened his mouth, then shut it again, jaw tight. Just think about it, he muttered before leaving. When the door clicked shut, I locked it behind him and leaned against it, my chest rising and falling like I'd just run a mile. I walked back to the kitchen, where the coffee still steamed. The mug trembled in my hand. For the first time in my life, I felt fear of my own children. But there was something else too, a spark under the fear. A determination that rose up from deep inside me, the same place that had carried me through raising babies, burying parents, and weathering every storm Ellis and I had ever faced. My boys might think I was old, tired, easy to manipulate, but they had forgotten who taught them how to stand. That night, I sat by the window, listening to the cicadas and the faint wail of a train passing through. I whispered into the darkness, "Ellis, if you can hear me, I found your words, and I won't let them break me." Because this wasn't just about money, or the house, or a will. This was about survival, about truth. And I wasn't about to lay down and let betrayal have the last word. Morning comes slow, the kind that sneaks in through the blinds in pale strips and paints dust motes gold. I stand at the kitchen counter buttering a heel of yesterday's cornbread, not because I'm hungry, but because the ritual steadies my hands. The house is quiet, too quiet for a place that used to thrum with Ellis's radio on low and the kettle whistling like a stubborn choir soprano. I slide the cornbread into the skillet, let it kiss the heat, and I think of that drawer again. The paper weight of it sits on my chest, in case of my death. Lord, the way he wrote that half-warning, half-love letter. I carry my plate to the study like a communion offering. The key is still warm from living in my apron pocket. The lock gives way with a soft click, and I pull the drawer all the way out this time, reaching past the envelope to the very back, where Ellis used to stash birthday cards he pretended to forget to sign. My fingers hit wood. I push harder. Something shifts. The false bottom is crude 2 brass tacks and a strip of stained oak, but it lifts. Beneath it, a manila folder sits like a buried heart. On the tab, in Ellis's careful hand, Living Will plus Revocations. I whisper it out loud, as if naming it gives me permission to touch it. Living will. I remember the last hospital visit, how Ellis squeezed my hand and said he didn't want strangers making decisions for him. I open the folder, and the first page steals my breath, an advance directive, notarized dated just 6 weeks ago. It spells out his wishes clear as day, and it names me, and me alone, as the one to speak for him if he can't speak for himself. Tucked behind it, there's a revocation letter Ellis formally canceling any prior powers of attorney, signed and witnessed. I can almost hear his voice. Don't let nobody nudge you out your own life, Clara. But there's more. A photocopy of a document that makes my stomach drop. Somebody tried to file a new power of attorney 2 weeks after that directive, appointing Marcus as primary and Dwayne as alternate. The signature says Ellis, but my spirit says otherwise. The slant is off, the E too stiff, the loop on the S missing its lazy curl. I've watched that man sign birthday checks and baseball permission slips for 45 years. I know his hand like I know the back of mine. I flip to a sticky note in Ellis's block print. If this gets filed without me present, it's a forgery. Keep this safe. I sit right down on the floor, cornbread forgotten on the desk, butter slick cooling into a pale sheen. The room buzzes in my ears, that low, angry hum that comes when indignation outruns fear. Somebody I birthed or somebody married to my flesh put their hands where they had no right. I think of how Marcus looked at me yesterday, offering help like a salesman. I think of Dwayne's grip, too tight on my fingers. And their wives, eyes cataloging the life I built as if they were deciding what fit in a moving truck. The phone rattles on the desk and I startle. It's a text from an unknown number, short and sharp as a slap. Don't sign anything, paper vultures circling. I don't answer. My hands are already moving, sliding the folder into my church tote, the navy one with the stitched dove Sister Maureen gave me after my hip surgery. I tuck the key back into my apron and go wash my plate, scrubbing at crumbs that ain't done nothing wrong, just to work the fire out of my blood. The dishwater's warm, and I let the heat crawl into my wrists until my breath evens. In the living room, I ring the old rotary I keep for nostalgia. Its clatter comforts me in a way my cell phone can't. I call the notary whose seal sits pressed into that directive. She remembers Ellis, says he insisted on meeting at the library because he liked the quiet there. Then I call the clerk's office. No new power of attorney is recorded, thank God. But the clerk hesitates. There was an inquiry last week, she says. A man asking what it would take to file on behalf of an incapacitated person. Incapacitated, I repeat, the word sour on my tongue. Somebody been planning to step over me like I'm a worn rug. When I hang up, the doorbell rings. The sound slices the house in half. I peek through the peephole. Marcus, alone. His tie is loose like he wants to look soft, approachable. I open the door but keep the chain on. Mama, he says, putting on that smile that fooled teachers and coaches since Little League. Can we talk? I brought you a smoothie. He holds up a sweating cup the color of overripe plums. The smell of blended berries floats in. Normally I'd laugh and say, boy, when I want fruit, I chew it. Instead I say, we can talk from right there. He glances at the chain, then nods like he expected it. I know this is hard, he begins, voice gentle. Me and Dwayne, we just want to make sure you're protected. I talked to a lawyer who can set up a guardianship just temporary so nobody takes advantage of you. Guardianship. My ears ring. My hands go cold. And who exactly is nobody? I ask. Mama, he says, smiling wider. It's standard. Best practice. Best practice for who? My mind jumps to the forged signature, the clerk's careful voice, the way Ellis wrote revocation like he knew this day would arrive. I unhook the chain and step onto the porch, closing the door behind me with the folder hidden under my cardigan. Marcus, I say, keeping my voice velvet smooth, your daddy named me to speak for him. He named me to keep our house. He named me to decide for me. And I'm still me. Something flickers behind his eyes, annoyance, then calculation. You're making this harder than it needs to be, he murmurs. We can't risk you getting scammed. I heard from... He stops himself. From who? I press. He clears his throat. A friend. A financial advisor. The kind of friend who gets paid if you move old money into new hands. I smile the way church mothers do when a child lies bold-faced in the fellowship hall. I appreciate your concern, I say. But guardianship is for folks who can't decide when the cornbread needs turning. I just turned mine twice. He laughs, a brittle sound. Think about it, he says, stepping backward. We're family. We should act like it. I watch him go, heart thunderous, palms damp. When his car pulls away, I go back inside and lock the door, top and bottom, then lean my forehead on the cool wood until the shaking passes. On the coffee table, a framed photo catches my eye, Marcus at 12, grinning gap-toothed, with a fishing pole taller than him. Dwayne at 7, cheeks shiny with watermelon juice. My babies. Where did they go? I pick up the frame and set it down, face up, because I won't hide from the truth even when it hurts. Back in the study, I slide the manila folder into a new place, the linen closet, behind the stack of guest towels nobody uses unless it's Easter. Then I sit at the desk and make a list, my cursive slow and careful like a prayer. 1. Notary confirmed. 2. Clerk no filing yet. 3. Lawyer find my own, not theirs. 4. Bank check accounts, lockdown access. 5. Pastor loop in someone I trust. I press my pen to the paper until a dot of ink blooms like a bruise. This is the moment the story turns from confusion to war. Not the bloody kind, no. The kind fought in offices and on phone calls, with signatures and timestamps, with a woman's memory and a man's foresight as her armor. I look toward the window. The magnolia out front shivers, though the air is still. A breeze? Or just a sign that things outside these walls are moving, whether I move with them or not? Somewhere, a bus exhales at the stop 3 blocks over, the sound low and distant. I don't know why that noise hooks into me, but it does, like a road clearing its throat. Sound off below, have you ever had family disrespect you like this? I say it the way I'd ask my choir sisters after rehearsal, half humor, half heartbreak. Because sometimes the only way through the shame is to speak it out loud where someone can nod and say, "Me too, baby. Me too." I gather the folder, the note, the will. I tuck a small Bible into my tote, the one that opens on its own to Psalm 27 from years of wear. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? I breathe those words like air. I taste their metal strength on my tongue. The The phone buzzes one more time, paper vultures circling. Then another ping, locker 22. Northwest Station. Combo 217. I stare at the screen, mouth gone dry as unbuttered toast. Northwest Station, locker 22. My pulse stutters. Ellis's first pickup truck had a dented fender from the Northwest lot, where he swore they made the parking spots too tight. He used to laugh about it every time we drove by. "Okay," I whisper to the empty room that isn't empty at all. "I hear you." The cornbread in the skillet is now a hard-edged moon. I break off a corner, chew, swallow, fuel. I reach for my keys, slide on my sandals, and sling the tote over my shoulder. The house settles behind me as I lock the door, the click echoing like a promise. Whatever waits in locker 22, I'm walking toward it with both eyes open and my back straight. And Lord help whoever stands in my way, because I got scripture in my bag, a living will at my hip, and a lifetime of being underestimated burning steady in my chest. Houston's Northwest Station smells of diesel, dust, and 100 rushed goodbyes. The buses wheeze in and out, groaning like tired giants. I stand in the concourse with my tote tight against my side, Ellis's words rattling in my skull. Locker 22. Combo the 17th of February, 2009. My sandals scuff on the floor as I scan the rows of metal doors, paint chipped, each padlock scarred with years of strangers' secrets. When I find it 22, rust curling around the numbers, my palms go damp. I turn the dial with careful fingers. 2:17:09. For a beat, nothing. Then the lock pops open with a click loud enough to startle me. I glance over my shoulder, two teenagers slouched on a bench, an older woman dozing with her purse in her lap. No one watching. I lift the door. Inside is a small box wrapped in brown paper and a note, Ellis's handwriting sharp and sure. For Clara, only you. My throat tightens. I tuck it into my tote and hurry out, my sandals slapping the floor like a metronome for my racing heart. Only once I'm in my car, doors locked, do I peel the paper away. Out spills Ellis's old wristwatch, the one he wore to every family reunion, its band scratched from years of grilling ribs and carrying coolers. Beneath it, a flash drive, and a thin stack of documents. I unfold the first page. It's a bank statement, but not from our regular branch, a different institution altogether. The balance makes my mouth go dry. Over $112,000 moved out just before Ellis died. The next paper, copies of our mortgage deed, insurance policies, with signatures that look off. The third, oh Lord, the third, is a receipt from the funeral home, naming Dwayne as the one who arranged a closed casket service, paid in cash. My hands tremble so badly the papers slip into my lap. Ellis knew. He knew somebody was trying to bury more than just his body. He left me the proof, hidden away where only I'd know to look if I trusted his signs. I stare at that flash drive, heart pounding. Part of me wants to plug it into the laptop right then, but my gut says no, too risky. Better on neutral ground, maybe at the library, maybe at Reverend Lou's office where eyes can witness. I fold everything back into the wrapping and drive home, every stoplight a test of patience. When I pull into the driveway, Marcus's car is already there, gleaming in the Texas Sunday. My stomach drops. He's sitting on the porch swing, tie off, sleeves rolled up like he belongs there. He stands when I step out, smile too smooth. "Mama," he says, "we need to talk." I keep my tote close, heart hammering. "What's so urgent you couldn't call?" He shrugs. "I wanted to check on you. Make sure you're not overwhelmed. Me and Dwayne, we just want you safe. You don't have to handle everything alone." That word again. Safe. As if I were in danger from who? Or maybe he means from them. I walk past him, unlock the door, and say over my shoulder, "Come in if you're coming." Inside, the house smells of the gumbo I started last night and left simmering low. The aroma of shrimp and okra grounds me, keeps me standing. Marcus looks around like he's taking inventory again. He leans on the counter. "Mama, I spoke with an advisor. He thinks selling the house is the smartest move. You'd have enough to live easy, maybe even travel." I let the gumbo ladle rest heavy in my hand. "Your daddy built this house with his own sweat. Ain't for sale." His jaw tightens. He softens his voice. "Sometimes holding on too tight just makes things harder." That's when I see it, his eyes flick to my tote. He knows I've got something. I step closer, ladle dripping broth onto the floor. My voice is low but firm. Marcus, don't mistake my quiet for weakness. You and your brother better remember who raised you, and remember your daddy always stayed one step ahead. He flinches, then forces a laugh. All right, Mama, just trying to help. He leaves, but not before glancing back at the tote one more time. When the door shuts, I sag against it, gumbo scent wrapping around me like a shield. I pull out the papers again, Ellis's watch ticking softly in my hand. My sons think they're circling prey. But Ellis left me a compass, and I plan to follow it straight through their lies. Because whatever storm is coming, I won't be blown down easy. Not while Ellis is out there, alive, and trusting me to finish what he started. I wake before the sun, one of those old woman mornings when the body remembers alarms from decades of school runs and early shifts. The house is quiet except for the kitchen clock doing its steady tick, and the gumbo pot cooling on the stove, a thin orange halo of fat at the edges. I fish out 2 shrimp for breakfast, eat them standing up, then slip Ellis's watch on my wrist. It's too big. It slides to my palm, the way his hand used to. I tighten the clasp a notch and whisper, "Walk with me." By 8, I'm sitting in Reverend Lou's office. He keeps a brass cross by the window and a jar of peppermint on his desk for dry throats after Sunday choir. I take 1 peppermint and cupped it in my cheek like a secret. He watches me carefully, the way only a pastor who's known your family 30 years can. "Reverend," I begin, "I need the kind of help that starts with prayer and ends with paperwork." He nods slow. "Then we'll do both." I tell him about the funeral text and the locker. I don't say Ellis is alive out loud, not yet. I speak around it like a skittish horse you approach from the side. I lay the documents across the desk. The bank statement from the strange institution, the funeral receipt with Dwayne's signature, the copies of policies with signatures that ain't right. When I finish, the peppermint is a flat shard against my tongue. Lou leans back. "Clara," he says, "you're walking in a valley, but you're walking. You hear me?" "I hear you." My voice is steady. He makes 2 calls. The first is to Miss Deirdre at Third Ward Savings, the woman who's guarded half the church's nest eggs since back when ATMs were novelties and folks wore gloves to town. The second is to a lawyer he calls quiet and exacting, the kind of man who files things before breakfast and lets the paperwork speak. Elder law, estates, protective orders when needed, Lou says. Name's Harold Wynne. He owes me for the time I married his son on a Saturday night with no rehearsal and 3 drunk groomsmen. I can't help but smile. All right then. We pray Reverend's voice low, a hum of safety, and then we go to the bank together because he won't let me go alone. On the drive, he keeps the radio off so I can hear my own breath. I count streetlights 11 between church and the brick building with the green awning where Deirdre rules with a pleasant smile and a steel spine. She meets us in her office, glasses on a chain, nails painted the color of a ripe fig. "Clara, baby," she says, standing to hug me. "I am so sorry for your loss." "Thank you," I say, and don't correct her because grief is complicated and truth is still getting its shoes on. We sit. I slide the folder toward her. She reads without interrupting, only pausing once to whistle low at the balance moved. 112 and change, she murmurs, tapping the paper. "Not your regular bank. But the transfer out, see this routing number?" She swivels the monitor toward me, clicks like a pianist. "That money passed through a clearing account here 3 days before before the funeral. Came from an account in Ellis's name to a holding. Then," her brows knit, "then someone tried to add an external user to your joint savings the morning after the service." My hands clench on my purse. "Who?" Deirdre's eyes flick toward Lou, then back to me. "I can't say names without a subpoena. But I can say this. A man came in with a copy of a power of attorney and wanted to rationalize assets." She makes a small, disgusted face at the phrase. "We flagged it. The notary stamp was wrong. Wrong county, wrong style." I stalled. The man got impatient. "The description?" Lou asks, voice neutral as rain. Deirdre shrugs one shoulder. Tall, mid-40s, suit too new for the way he wore it. Smelled like expensive cologne trying to cover nerves. She looks at me over the rim of her glasses. "Sound like anyone's boy?" My stomach tightens. Marcus likes cologne that lingers. Dwayne wears aftershave and pride. I need to wall off everything, I say, voice small and then growing. Pins, passwords, paper statements. I want a new online profile no one knows, and I want alerts like fire alarms. Deirdre smiles. Good. We'll salt the earth. She clicks. Step 1. Remove any secondary contacts and revoke verbal authorizations. Step 2. Set up two-factor verification with the hardware token. We'll put it on your keychain. You'll press the little button. It'll give a code nobody can guess. Step 3. Change account nicknames to boring no house fund. No Ellis retirement. Just a 1 a 2. She prints forms with the ruthless cheer of a woman who enjoys keeping thieves hungry. Also, she adds, dropping her voice, there's an insurance claim filed on a policy for Ellis filed at 3:12 p.m. the day of the funeral. My mouth goes dry. Filed by who? She slides me a sanitized summary. I can only show you this much without permission, but the claimant indicated he was the responsible adult child. Responsible adult child. It's so absurd I almost laugh. Lou doesn't. He presses his palm flat on her desk, a prayer disguised as gravity. Deirdre hands me a small black key fob. Press that button when you log in. And Clara, don't sign a thing for anyone who shows up with a smile and a form. Tell them Miss Deirdre says you're on a cooling period. Cooling period. I repeat, and tuck the fob onto my keyring next to the tiny pewter magnolia Ellis gave me one anniversary when money was thin but imagination was not. We leave the bank with my accounts locked up like a winter pantry. Lou drives me straight to a squat brick building that looks like an old post office. Inside, the air smells of toner and lemon cleaner. Harold'll see us, he says, guiding me down a hallway where plaques list victories in polite fonts. Mr. Wynne, thin, tidy, with a barber's part and a half smile that says he appreciates a well-numbered exhibit, invites us to sit. He listens as I tell the story again. He doesn't interrupt. He only scribbles in a narrow notebook and asks for dates like he collects them. When I finish, he steeples his fingers. First, he says, we establish capacity yours. I'll have a geriatric specialist give you an affidavit this afternoon, clean and formal. That ends any whisper of guardianship unless someone wants to perjure themselves. He ticks the air. Second, we file a standing revocation and a notice to financial institutions no powers of attorney recognized unless they're presented in person with you present and me copied. Third, we draft a cease and desist to any party attempting to act on your behalf without authorization. Fourth, we request, via discovery if needed, the funeral home's chain of custody for remains. That last one knocks the breath from me. I grip Ellis's watch where it slides down my wrist. Chain of custody, I repeat, the words clumsy in my mouth. Mr. Wynne nods. Who transported, who signed, who viewed? Closed caskets get sloppy paperwork. He peers at the funeral receipt. Paid in cash by a family member, That's messy. Messy is good for us. Lou clears his throat. Harold, there's more. He gives the smallest shake of his head. Not here. Not yet. The lawyer looks at me, then folds his notebook. I will move quietly and quickly, he says. Do not confront your sons. Do not announce your moves. Wear your recorder when you meet them. Texas is a one-party consent state. Your consent is sufficient. Keep your phone in a shirt pocket or your tote so it catches the audio. He slides a device across the desk, smaller than a key. This one's better. I pick it up. It's light as a peppermint. I think of my boys' laughter in old photos, and a part of me wants to run from all of this. Another part, a larger, older part, roots my feet. If they come with papers? I ask. He smiles with half his face. Tell them, my counsel will review. Then close the door. Back home, the afternoon light slants through the kitchen, laying stripes on the linoleum, the color of café au lait. I unspool leftover twine from a drawer and tie the flash drive to the little recorder, a private totem, then drop both into the sugar canister, one place my sons never bothered to look unless there was pound cake cooling. I wash the gumbo pot even though it could wait, rubbing the rim where the orange halo sat until it shines, because sometimes the hands need a job while the mind lines up soldiers. The house phone rings. An automated voice chirps about an important matter and how I should stay on the line to verify identity. I hang up. 2 minutes later, my cell buzzes with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 59 seconds of silence. Then a text. Availability to discuss guardianship? Quick call? No name. Just hunger. I sit at the table and cut a square of cornbread, smear it with the last of the strawberry jam I put up back in June. The sweetness steadies me. As I chew, I notice a pale smear on the table's edge, a fingerprint in gray dust, too high to be mine. Marcus leaning in, reaching for my tote. I wipe it with my dishcloth, slow, deliberate, like erasing chalk from a blackboard after a hard lesson. Evening falls with that soft Gulf hush. Lou texts, Harold filed, see you at morning service, sit near the aisle. I send back a small heart and a praying hands, then place my phone face down because I don't want the light waking me if the unknown number grows bold after midnight. Before I sleep, I open Ellis's Bible at random. My eye lands on a verse I've underlined so many times the paper is thin. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. I lay the open book on his pillow, the dent's still there. In the stillness, a sound pricks my ear, distant siren maybe, or only the imagination of a woman whose life has become a map of warnings. Either way, I feel it in my bones. This isn't just about bank forms and notarized stamps. Something at the hospital wasn't right, the way the night nurse wouldn't meet my eye. The missing burn report Ellis mentioned once, when he was still recovering. I turn off the lamp. The room goes blue with streetlight. Tomorrow, I whisper into the space between his side and mine, we start pulling the hospital thread. And out in the darkness, the city answers with the low, tired exhale of a bus turning the corner like a man who's been hiding too long deciding to come home. Sunday morning always used to mean the smell of Ellis's aftershave, sharp as cedar, mixing with bacon popping in the skillet. I'd hear him humming Wade in the Water while he polished his shoes, low and steady, filling the walls with peace. But this Sunday, I walk into church alone, scarf tied neat around my curls, Ellis's watch heavy on my wrist. The ushers at the door squeeze my hand like they know my heart's been broken. I smile faint, slide into my usual pew near the aisle, just like Reverend Lou suggested. My tote rests by my hip, recorder inside, humming silent. The choir starts up with His Eye is on the Sparrow, and Lord, I can't sing it. My voice sticks right in my throat. Service flows prayers, scripture, announcements about the youth car wash. But I can't catch a word. My eyes keep darting to the side doors. Dwayne strolls in halfway through, wearing sunglasses indoors, sitting 3 rows ahead like he's got nothing to hide. Marcus slips in after, head high, sliding his arm around his wife's shoulder as if everything's proper. When the final hymn fades, Reverend Lou clears his throat. Before benediction, he says, voice deep as the Mississippi, we got a word of guidance for Sister Clara, a reminder that the Lord don't give us spirit of fear. His gaze cuts across the pews, landing square on my boys. They shift, restless. I nod, press my tote close. After service, I make a show of walking toward the fellowship hall. Marcus falls in step. Mama, he says, voice smooth, me and Dwayne want to talk with you, private. I let him lead me toward a side room, the old choir rehearsal space. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Dwayne's already there, tapping his foot, eyes sharp. His wife sits in the corner, arms folded. All right, I say, settling into a chair. What's so urgent y'all can't wait till supper? Dwayne leans forward. Mama, we need the house keys. It ain't safe for you rattling around that big place alone. We'll get movers in, find you a nice apartment. I laugh. Short, bitter. You sound rehearsed, baby. Marcus pulls out a folder, sliding it across the table. Papers, he says. Guardianship, power of attorney, all standard. We just need your signature. I don't touch it. My tote rests against my leg, recorder running. My hand stays steady on Ellis's watch. And if I don't sign? I ask. Silence hangs. Then Marcus's wife breaks it, her voice sharp. Then we'll have to involve the courts. We've already started. My stomach drops, but I keep my face stone still. Courts? Dwayne smirks. Mama, it'll go easier if you cooperate. You're almost 70. Judges understand when families step in for elders. Almost 70. The way he says it cuts like a knife. As if my years disqualify me from my own life. I take a slow breath. Let me tell you something. I've run this house since before you knew how to lace your shoes. I've cooked your meals, washed your sheets, prayed over your fevers. And I'm still standing. I may be old to you, but I am not helpless. Don't confuse gray hair with weakness. Marcus pushes the folder closer. Just sign, Mama. Don't make this ugly. I lean back, eyes narrowed. Ugly already walked in with y'all. Huh. Something flickers in Dwayne's eyes, anger, fear, I can't tell. He slaps the table. We're trying to protect what's ours. That word ours echoes in my ears. Not yours, Mama, ours. I stand, smoothing my skirt. This conversation's over. My lawyer will be in touch. Their faces twist shock first, then fury. They didn't expect me to have a lawyer. Didn't expect me to have any cards left to play. I walk out slow, chin high, though my knees threaten to buckle. In the hall, Reverend Lou nods, just once, letting me know he saw, he heard. Outside, the Texas sun beats down, hot enough to fry grief into something sharp and useful. I clutch Ellis's watch, whisper under my breath, we're gonna beat them at their own game. And Lord help me, in that moment, I swear I feel Ellis's hand on my back, guiding me forward. If this hit home, tap that like, fam, it keeps me going. Hospitals always smell like bleach and borrowed time. I step through the automatic doors with Ellis's watch knocking softly against my wrist, the second hand ticking like a tiny metronome for my nerves. Mr. Wynne walks beside me, crisp as a pressed hymn book, carrying a narrow folder that looks too light for all the weight it holds. We pass the gift shop with its stuffed bears and helium balloons that say get well soon, and I think, not for the first time, that folks should sell courage in there, little jars you could open when the hallway feels too long. The ICU desk sits under fluorescent lights bright enough to scare off sleep. A young man in blue scrubs looks up, tired eyes behind round glasses. His badge says, Lamar, RN. I give him a small smile the way church mothers do when a child's done his best with what he has. Morning, Mr. Wynne says, voice polite but edged. He slides a paper across the counter. We're here to review my client's late husband's records, HIPAA authorization, and next of kin documentation. Lamar reads, glances at me, back to the paper, then taps on a keyboard. You'll want medical records in the basement, but I can print the face sheet and the log while you head down. Room assignments, visitors not detailed, but, he lowers his voice. It'll give you a map. We wait while the printer coughs out thin pages. My stomach rumbles too much coffee, not enough food, and I pull a peppermint from my purse, the kind Reverend keeps, and let the sugar melt on my tongue. Domestic habits anchor me, peppermint for nerves, tissue in the sleeve, pen in the tote. If I'm going to walk into the valley, I'm going with my pockets stocked like a grandmother's. Lamar hands over the papers. I'm sorry for your loss, he says, and the words land strange, like he's been told to say them. Records is 2 floors down, end of the hall. He hesitates, then adds, sometimes the cameras in ICU Wing B get temperamental at night. Just so you know if you file a request. Night. Cameras. I tuck that hint into my pocket next to the peppermint. The elevator sighs us down, doors opening to a cooler, quieter hallway records. A woman with half-moon glasses sits at a desk stacked with manila folders. Take a number, the sign says, but there's nobody else waiting. I glance at Mr. Capling. Wynne. He gives the smallest shrug that means he intends to ask for the world and settle for the moon. Morning, he begins again, sliding the forms across. Full chart, visitor logs, badge swipes, and any incident reports related to patient Ellis R. on these dates. He lists them from memory, each one a knife. The day Ellis fell, the day he stabilized, the night he passed. The clerk her name tag says, Bonnie chews the inside of her cheek. Full chart takes a few days, she says. Visitor logs we can do. Badge swipes, that's security. Incident reports, if any, will be redacted. She leans forward slightly. But you can view the digital chart on the portal. Do you have his password? I shake my head no. Wynne raises a brow. We'll file for proxy access, he says smoothly. Meanwhile, the logs would be appreciated. Oh. Bonnie prints. Paper curls into the tray like hot pie crust. She stacks them neat, staples at the top left corner like a woman who refuses chaos, and slides them to me. I'm sorry for your loss, she says too, and I nod. The words change shape in my ears. Loss like a hole, loss like a riddle, loss like a lure to pull out the truth. We sit in a small consultation room with a clock that runs 2 minutes slow. Wynn makes a grid on his legal pad: date, time, visitor, staff. He passes me a highlighter. I circle names I recognize: Marcus, Dwayne. My circles are neat at first, then they wobble as the pattern begins to show itself. Marcus, 3 visits. Dwayne, 4. Me, every day. Ellis's boss not once, though he sent flowers big enough to shade a porch. A name I don't know appears twice. J. Hollis, at odd hours, 11:32 p.m., 2:05 a.m. There's a note once, escorted. Who's that? I ask. Wynn taps the paper. Could be a specialist, could be a vendor, could be nothing, could be everything. We'll ask for his credentials. He draws a line down the badge swipe column. ICU Wing B camera outage, he murmurs, and the words feel like a draft sneaking under a door. The log marks no video on the very night Ellis passed. From 11:40 p.m. to 3:10 a.m., a gap wide enough to drive a hearse through. My chest tightens. The nurse that night, I say, voice scraping, was a tall woman with a butterfly clip. She wouldn't look me in the eye that afternoon, said Ellis was resting comfortably like she had the sentence pre-printed in her mouth. Wynn writes, butterfly clip in his narrow hand, and underlines it. We'll depose the shift. I flip back a page. There's an asterisk by incident report, but the line is blank. What's that mean? Means something got started and not finished, he says. Or finished and hidden. A domestic memory sneaks up on me. The way Ellis used to leave a screwdriver out on the porch when he planned to fix a hinge later, a little signal of his intention. This blank line feels like that screwdriver work begun, paused, secreted away. Bonnie knocks softly and peeks in. Security will see you, she says. Don't say I said it, but ask for Mr. Vance. He's thorough. We trail her to a small office where monitors show empty hallways and a paused image of the ER entrance. Mr. Vance is short, built like a bulldog, with a gold wedding band that's worn smooth. Wynn runs the script again: forms, dates, tones. Vance reads, grunts, and clicks keys that sound like hammers on nails. Cameras in Wing B were down for scheduled maintenance, he says. Between midnight and 3 a.m. on a weekday? Wynn asks, bland as toast. Vance's jaw works. That's when we do at least foot traffic. Foot traffic or visiting family? Wynn says, still bland, but his pen is tapping now. Any motion detected in the stairwells those hours? Vance clicks, scrolls, narrows his eyes. Motion at 1:42 a.m. and 2:53 a.m. in stairwell 2. No visual sensor only. He glances at me, then away. You'll need a subpoena for the raw logs. We'll get one by lunch, Wynn replies. Badge swipes? Vance shifts in his chair, then reads from the screen. Staff access. Hollis J. Biomed contractor. 2 entries, 2 exits. 11:29 p.m., 2:07 a.m. That name again. My skin prickles. What's biomed? I ask. Equipment, Vance says. Ventilators, monitors, infusion pumps. I grip Ellis's watch. Was my husband on a ventilator? Vance flips to a different screen. Not according to the face sheet. Oxygen, no vent. Then what did Mr. Hollis service at 2 in the morning? Wynn asks, and finally Vance looks rattled. He sighs. I keep the logs. I don't interpret them. A beat. But Hollis shouldn't be alone in ICU at that hour. Policy says escort. The log only marks escorted once at 11:32 p.m. It doesn't say who. We leave security with a request receipt and a promise of compliance upon legal demand. Wynn's mouth tightens. They'll stall, he says. We'll shove. On the ground floor, the cafeteria smells like burnt coffee and overboiled broccoli. I buy a small cup anyway and a pack of cheese crackers that taste like cardboard prayers. We sit by the window where you can see the ambulance bay and a single magnolia tree planted in new mulch. Its blossoms are just past their prime, petals thick, browning at the edges. I don't understand, I say, voice low. If Ellis died here, where is he? The question splits me open, simple and savage. Wynn watches the ambulances, then me. He doesn't pat my hand or tell me to be patient. He peels the wrapper off his own crackers like he is undressing a hard truth. Stage deaths require 3 things, he says: cooperative paperwork, a gap in eyes, on supervision, and a pressure point: money, leverage, or fear. He taps the log. We've got 2. We'll find the 3rd. I stare into my coffee, dark as midnight choir robes, and remember the way the night nurse's butterfly clip caught the light. I remember the first accident Ellis had told me about, how he'd singed his forearm on a grill at the shop, said it looked worse than it felt, and then the burn report disappeared when I asked the clinic to send it over. Vanished like steam. Something's wrong with the burn record, I say, and the closed casket, and now this man Hollis creeping through stairs at 2 in the morning. Wynne nods. We're building a wall of small facts until the door inside it shows. He glances at my hands. You're steady. I'm furious. I slide the crackers across the table to him and fish a zip-top bag from my tote where I keep almonds and raisins like a woman who knows she might get stuck somewhere hungry. I hand him some. Keep some for me. Domestic detail in a war room. If you can feed somebody, you can outlast them. On our way out, Lamar the nurse catches my eye and jerks his chin toward a side corridor. Miss Clara, he says softly when I step near. I can't say much, but the night Ellis passed, Miss Aubrey was on shift. She wears that butterfly clip. She called in a comfort care consult at midnight, but there's no chart order for it, and Dr. Cates, he usually rounds, didn't sign the pronouncement. Somebody from administration did. That's not usual. Not usual is hospital language for wrong. I touch Lamar's arm, mother gentle. You've done right, baby, I whisper. The Lord sees. Back in the car, the air feels thick as syrup. Wynne flips to a clean page. Next steps, he says. Subpoena for badge logs, depose Aubrey and admin, petition to view remains chain of custody, request insurance hold, citing probable fraud. He glances at me. And, Clara, no more meeting your sons without me or Reverend present. I look out at the magnolia, petals bruising in the Sunday. They're already waiting, I say, just knowing it. They will try something tonight or tomorrow. Foreshadowing sits beside me like an uninvited guest. The watch ticks. The peppermint is gone, sweet burn to sharpen my mouth. My boys think time is on their side, that paperwork moves slow, and Mama's bend. They forget a woman like me has all the time she needs when the truth is running toward her. Let them try, I say, voice cooled to iron. Let them bring their papers and their smiles. I'll bring my God, my lawyer, and a recorder with fresh batteries. For the first time all day, Wynne smiles with his whole face. Now we're talking. We drive away from bleach and bright lights, past the gift shop that sells Get Well bears but not courage. I reach across the console and rest my fingers on that too big watch, feeling its steady life against my skin. Somewhere in this city, Ellis is breathing. Somewhere, a man named Hollis knows more than his badge will say. And somewhere closer than all that, 2 sons are plotting an evening visit, thinking their mama won't be ready. I set out 2 mugs on my kitchen counter when I get home, just to choose where folks will sit if they knock me by the window, visitor near the door. I sweep the floor to push my nerves into motion. I lay a dish towel over the pound cake I baked last month and froze because if the devil's coming by, he can smell butter and vanilla and know he's stepping into a house that still has ritual, still has sweetness, still has fight. Night is coming, and with it, noise. I can feel it gathering like thunder over the bayou. By late afternoon, the heat slumps in the yard like a tired man. I brew a quick pot of tea peppermint again, 2 spoonfuls of sugar because my nerves are jittery as a tambourine in a storefront church. I wrap a slice of thawed pound cake in wax paper and slip it into my tote, not because I expect hospitality where I'm going, but because a woman never knows when she'll need to sweeten somebody's mouth before asking for the unsayable. Ellis's watch slides to the heel of my hand when I reach for my keys. I tighten it and tell myself to breathe. Funeral homes live on formality paper, signatures, dates. If there's truth to be pried free, it'll be taped to a clipboard or half-shredded in a bin behind a desk. Mr. Wynne meets me in the parking lot, suit still crisp though the day's wrung-out heat presses like a palm. The brick facade of Daystar Memorial looks harmless planters of begonias, a tasteful brass plaque, but the air inside smells like lilies trying to make grief polite. At the reception desk sits a young woman with a neat bun and a name tag that says, Tiana. She smiles automatically, then clocks the folder in Wynne's hand and swallows. Afternoon, he says, voice low, courteous. We're here to review chain of custody records for the remains of Ellis R., received and prepared on, he recites the dates, and any related transfers. He lays down a letter on firm letterhead, the kind that says, "Ask your supervisor before you tell me no." Tiana reads, glances toward a frosted glass door, then back. "Mr. Collins is with a family," she murmurs. "If you'll take a seat." "We'll stand," Wynne answers gently, which is lawyer for we're not cooling our heels where you can forget us. The frosted door swings open. A man in a charcoal suit. Collins wipes his eyes like he's practiced empathy so long it's muscle memory. When he sees the letter, he doesn't even pretend we're here to pick out him cards. He ushers us into a carpeted office the color of dry oatmeal, shuts the door, and folds his hands like he's in prayer. "I'll cooperate," he says before Wynne can speak. "We've had irregularities lately. I prefer to avoid headlines." "We prefer to avoid graves without answers," I say, my voice more steady than my knees. He starts with a stack of forms: receipt of remains, embalming authorization, casket model numbers, standard, smooth. My eyes catch on two oddities. Closed casket recommended due to condition, stamped, not handwritten, and arranged by Dwayne R., followed by payment, cash $9,600. The numbers blur for a breath. $9,600 in cash, handed across a desk like groceries. "Who recommended the closed casket?" Wynne asks, mild as a librarian. "Our mortuary tech evaluating intake. It's common language," Collins says too quickly. He flips a page. "Preparation occurred overnight due to scheduling constraints." "Overnight?" I repeat. "What time?" He hesitates, then pulls a different sheet from a lower drawer, as if from a different world. The prep log. There it is in black ink. Body received, 11:58 p.m. Transfer from hospital, 11:35 p.m. Embalming start, 12:42 a.m. Completed, 2:03 a.m. Beside received by, a scrawled name I don't recognize. Beside delivered by, 3 letters, J.H. I can't help it. A small sound escapes me. "J. Hollis," I whisper, and the room shrinks. Collins looks up sharp. "You know that vendor?" "Biomed at the hospital," Wynne says flat. "No business delivering a body." Collins's mouth thins. He rises, crosses to a locked file cabinet, and pulls out a manila envelope marked Night Transfer 0 to 3. He lays it on the desk like it's a sleeping thing he's afraid to wake. "We contract with a transport service," he says, measured. "But that night our regular driver called out. A temp showed. The name on the slip is J. Hollis. We flagged it. I filed an internal incident for audit." He slides the transport slip forward. The carbon paper is smudged, but legible. "Picked up from street. Luke's ICU bay transfer. Released by admin initials AC. Received by Daystar J. Hollis." There's a second page stapled behind it, a correction, added the next morning, handwriting shaky. "Correction, released by admin initials AD. Someone caught an error and tried to cover it like a crooked hem." "Why the correction?" Wynne asks. Collins rubs a thumb over the corner. "Because AC doesn't work in admin. That's a surgeon. The clerk is AD. Our night attendant realized the mismatch, wrote it up at 7:10 a.m. He meets my eyes. "It never should have been released at all without a doctor's sign-off. And we prefer day transfers whenever possible. But," he spreads his hands, "families push, hospitals hurry." I picture that fluorescent corridor, Lamar's tired eyes, the pronouncement signed by administration. I picture the stairwell sensor blinking at 1:42 a.m., like a heartbeat in the dark. "Do you have camera footage at your loading bay?" Wynne says, already knowing the answer. "We did," Collins says. "We archive for 7 days unless flagged. No flag. It rolled over." He winces at his own words. "I'm sorry." 7 days. My fingers curl. "So tell me," I say softly, "what did I bury?" He flinches as he should. He reaches into the envelope again and extracts a small, awful proof. A bag tag, plastic stiff, printed with a name that is not my husband's. "This was attached to the alternate casket we took delivery of for overflow that night," he says. "It was corrected in our system by dawn. The casket placed for your service matched your," he stops, swallows. "It matched the paperwork presented to us. Alternate casket, overflow. Papers sliding in the night. A tag with a wrong name. My vision whites out at the edges like a storm is walking across my eyes. I grip the edge of the desk and breathe through my teeth. Wynne lifts the tag with a pen. The wrong name glares. "You're telling us 2 caskets came in after midnight," he says. "One for overflow with this tag, one ostensibly containing my client's husband, delivered by a non-employee whose initials match a hospital contractor we've already questioned on paper." He looks up. "And you took cash from a family member to rush the service closed. Casket." Collins tries to flatten his tie. "I'm telling you our process failed in several respects, yes." He glances at me. "Mrs. R, I'm sorry." Sorry is a little word for a canyon. The room hums air vent, distant muffled hymn from a service down the hall, the old drumbeat in my chest. I slide the slice of pound cake onto a napkin and push it toward Tiana, who's been hovering like a guilty ghost. "Baby," I say, "I need you to go get a copy of any midnight emails about my husband's case, especially anything with the word substitute or overflow. If your spirit tells you something was off, and you help me make it right, God will be kind to your days." She stares at the cake, then at me. Something in her face breaks a small, quiet crack. "Give me 10 minutes, she whispers and disappears. Wynne shifts his legal pad, already writing requests, corrected release initials, list of all-night staff, copy of internal incident for audit, itemized receipt, serial numbers on both caskets, transport company contract, driver roster. He taps the pen against the wrong name tag. "We'll also need any record of substitution orders, inventory shocks, supplier delays, anything that gave you a reason to swap caskets at 1 a.m. Collins nods like a man bracing for a wave. "I'll provide what I can today." While he prints, I study the tiny, domestic wrongnesses that add up to a crime. The stapler on his desk sits with its mouth open, a single bent staple stuck like a bad memory. A water ring stains the mahogany where someone didn't use a coaster. Dust halos the base of the grief brochure stand. This is what sloppiness looks like in the land of the solemn, tiny circles of good enough, where only clean lines should be. Tiana returns with a thin stack and eyes that won't quite meet mine. She sets the papers down and aims her voice at the carpet. 2 midnight notes, she says. One from AD saying family insisted on immediate transfer admin signed off. Another from Collins. She flicks a glance at him and he reddens, flagging an alternate casket delivery error at 12:16 a.m. marked corrected. Marked corrected by who? Wynne asks. She points to initials I recognize now on sight, JH. I find my own breath shaping around a prayer that is not a plea but a proposition. Lord, if you brought me this far, keep the lamp lit 1 more mile. Wynne gathers the copies into a precise stack. We are placing you on notice, he says to Collins, kind as a funeral hymn and sharp as a quill. Any spoliation of evidence will be treated as an admission. Prepare to produce your complete midnight log and transport communications. We will also be issuing a preservation letter to Street Lukes. I stand, my legs remembering their duty. The room tilts for just a moment, and then steadies when Ellis's watch knocks my wrist like a nudge. I tuck the wrong name tag into a plastic sleeve. Tiana quietly offers God bless that girl and slide it into my tote beside my Bible, the recorder, and a peppermint wrapper I can't bring myself to throw away. On our way out, the chapel door stands ajar. I stop in the doorway and look at the rows of empty chairs, the arch of lilies bending like listening ears. A simple thought walks over me. If Ellis is alive, then he has lived these days under a name that is not his, carried by hands that do not love him, moved at hours meant to hide what men are doing. If Ellis is alive, then someone was buried in his place or someone was promised burial and was stolen for money, for leverage, for fear. We step into the heat. It hits me like a hand on my back, but I'm done being pushed. Wynne checks his watch. Security said Hollis logged entries at 11:29 and 27, he says. The funeral log says 11:58 received, 12:16 alternate corrected. The window is tight. Tight enough to make a man careless, I say. Careless enough to leave a tag. His phone buzzes. He glances, shows me the screen. A text from an unknown number, the same cadence as the ones that sent me to the locker. You're close. Church basement, 9 p.m. No one else. The world narrows to a point: fear, hope, rage, love all at once. Tonight, I whisper, Foreshadowing sits beside me again, familiar now as my own shadow in the late Sunday. Somewhere, a bus exhales at a corner. Somewhere, a man named Hollis pretends he didn't sign what he signed. Somewhere, my boys are winding themselves up for another attempt. But first, a basement, a clock striking 9, and the chance lord, please for a face I know, like home. I grip the tote, feel the stiff edge of that wrong name tag against my palm, and walk toward evening as if it were a door I'm finally ready to open. 9 o'clock comes heavy, like a drumbeat rolling through the city. I slip through the side door of Mount Zion's basement, where the church keeps extra folding chairs and hymnals too worn for Sunday service. The air smells of dust, floor wax, and old wood. A single bulb hums overhead, its light swaying as if nervous, same as me. My tote hangs from my shoulder, recorder running. I keep Ellis's watch pressed against my skin, praying it'll anchor me if the ground gives way. The room is empty at first, shadows thick in the corners. Then I hear it footsteps, slow, cautious, dragging just enough to make my knees buckle. Clara. I freeze, that voice rasped but steady. Out of the shadows he steps, thinner than I remember, beard patchy, eyes burning with a fire I've known since the day we said I do. Ellis. I cover my mouth to hold back the cry that wants to tear free. Tears sting my eyes as I reach for him, fingers trembling, afraid he'll vanish like smoke. But his hand clasps mine, warm, real. They tried to bury me, Clara, he whispers, eyes darting toward the door. Threats. Money. Our own blood mixed up in it. I had no choice but to disappear. I clutch his wrist, my heart pounding. Marcus? Dwayne? He nods, pain crossing his face. And others. Bigger than them. I got proof, but we can't be careless. If they know I'm alive, they'll finish the job. The bulb flickers. The church above us creaks as if the whole building's listening. I hold on tighter. Then we fight, smart Ellis. You left me the trail. I followed it. We ain't done yet. For the first time in weeks, I see at the corner of his smile, tired but still ours. The next morning, I sit at my kitchen table with Ellis's words still echoing in my ears. Pretend I'm gone a little longer. It tears at me, but I know he's right. If Marcus and Dwayne even suspect he's breathing, they'll scramble to cover every trail. My job is to let their arrogance talk louder than my grief. I spread the documents across the table, hospital logs, the wrong casket tag, the forged signatures. The sunlight catches the stapled corners, flashing like little swords. I sip my chicory coffee, strong and bitter, and whisper, Lord, give me patience and a lion's heart. By noon, Marcus is back on my porch, this time with Dwayne at his side. They wear their church suits again, ties too tight, smile stretched thin. Dwayne clears his throat. Mama, we're holding a family meeting tonight, about the estate. Everybody needs to be on the same page. I rest my hand on the doorknob, knuckles calm. Then I suggest y'all bring your best manners and the truth, because I'll have company. They frown, not expecting resistance. Marcus's jaw ticks, but he forces another smile. Sure thing, Mama. 7 o'clock. As they walk away, I feel the recorder humming in my pocket, already tasting the confession that's bound to slip when their pride outpaces their caution. They think they're corralling me into a corner, but I've lived long enough to know sometimes the corner is exactly where you lay the trap. 7 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rings. I've set the living room just so, curtains drawn, lamp low, pound cake on the table like it's just another family gathering. But hidden in my cardigan pocket is Wynn's recorder, light as a coin, ready to catch every syllable. Reverend Lou sits in the armchair by the window, Bible open on his lap, eyes steady. Marcus and Dwayne come in with their wives trailing close. They scan the room, surprised to see company. Didn't expect guests, Marcus mutters. Well, I say, pouring sweet tea into tall glasses, truth sounds better when more ears can hear it. At first, they posture talk of protecting assets and avoiding fraud. But the more they sip tea, the looser their tongues get. Dwayne leans back, smirking. Mama, you don't understand. If we wait for probate, that insurance money gets tied up. We just fast-tracked it. Daddy's accident gave us leverage, and we'd be fools not to use it. The room goes still. I keep my face soft, but inside my heart kicks like a drum. Reverend Lou shifts, eyes sharp as a hawk. The recorder hums quietly, catching every careless word. Marcus nods, too far in now. We handled the funeral quick so nobody could question the condition. Closed casket keeps problems buried, literally. It's just smart business. I set the pound cake knife down slow, letting the weight of their own confession fill the room. They don't even notice how they've damned themselves with their own pride. For once, I don't have to speak. Their mouths are writing the testimony that'll hang them. The knife still rests beside the pound cake, but I don't touch it. My boys have already carved their own fate with the sharpness of their words. The recorder in my pocket hums like a heartbeat, steady and faithful. Reverend Lou leans forward, voice calm as Sunday prayer. Sons, you understand what you just said? Insurance fraud? Forged papers? That ain't business, it's sin. And crime. Dwayne laughs, but it's thin. Reverend, don't preach. We just did what needed doing. Daddy wasn't worth more alive than he was gone. My throat burns, but I keep my face still. Marcus adds, and Mama don't think you're untouchable. If you won't sign, we'll find another way. We already got folks lined up to make sure the house changes hands. Their wives sit quiet, eyes down, like they want to vanish into the carpet. I see the shame there, but not enough to stop them. I fold my hands on my lap. Thank you for telling me straight, I say softly. I wanted to believe my sons still had a backbone of decency. Now I know. Marcus frowns, sensing the shift. What's that supposed to mean? I meet his eyes, steady. It means the truth ain't on your side anymore. And when the truth comes knocking, it don't ask permission to come in. They don't realize every syllable's already sealed. Tonight, their arrogance has written my deliverance. Sunday comes dressed in sunlight, but my house feels like Judgment Day. I walk into church with my toad on one arm and my heart steady in my chest. Reverend Lou has the recorder ready. Wynne meets us at the back pew, briefcase in hand. The choir rises with, "Great is thy faithfulness," and the sound fills every crack of doubt inside me. After the sermon, Lou clears his throat. Before we close, there's a matter of truth that must be shared. His voice carries like thunder rolling through pine trees. Heads turn, murmurs rise. Wynne sets a small speaker on the pulpit. He presses play. The congregation leans in as my son's voices spill into the sanctuary talk of insurance fraud, forged papers. Daddy wasn't worth more alive. Gasps ripple through the pews. Mother Johnson clutches her chest. Deacon Harris shakes his head, muttering, "Lord, have mercy." Marcus leaps to his feet. "This is twisted edited," he shouts. But Dwayne's face gives him away, pale as linen. Officers, already waiting in the narthex, step forward. The click of handcuffs is louder than the hymnals slamming shut. My boys, my babies, led out past the choir loft, past the very neighbors who once cradled them at baptisms. The choir hums a low chord, grief and justice braided together. I sit still in my pew, Ellis's watch heavy on my wrist, eyes fixed on the cross above the altar. It isn't victory I feel. It's sorrow laced with relief, the kind that tastes like salt and iron. My sons are caught, but the fight isn't over. Ellis is still out there waiting. When the service ended and the police cars rolled away, I lingered in the church longer than anyone else. The scent of lilies from the altar clung to my dress, mingling with the faint musk of old hymnals and wooden pews polished by decades of Sunday hands. The sanctuary was empty now, but I stayed seated in the third row, Ellis's watch cold against my wrist. My body felt drained, but my spirit was awake in a way it hadn't been for weeks. I thought about Marcus and Dwayne, my own sons, being led away in cuffs. I thought of the mothers in the pews clutching their pearls, whispering prayers, and the children peeking wide-eyed from behind their father's shoulders. Shame pressed down heavy, but I knew this shame wasn't mine to carry. They made their choices. They forged their father's name. They tried to bury me along with him. Still, when I closed my eyes, I didn't see criminals. I saw gap-toothed smiles at Christmas, sticky hands tugging at my apron, the sound of little feet pounding down the hallway on Easter morning, my babies. And that's the cruelest part of betrayal. It never comes from strangers. It always comes from the ones you rock to sleep. Reverend Lou placed a hand on my shoulder. "Clara, you've done what needed doing. Now it's time to heal." I nodded, but my chest still ached. Healing sounded too gentle for wounds this deep. That evening, I went home to a house finally still, no shadows pacing on my porch, no voices pressing me to sign away my life. I fried chicken just for myself, Slow and steady, let the grease pop and the smell fill the kitchen until it felt like home again. I set 2 plates on the table out of habit, then caught myself. For a moment, the ache threatened to undo me. But I whispered, "Soon, Ellis, soon." Later, I sat on the porch swing, listening to cicadas hum like a hidden choir. A warm breeze carried the scent of magnolia and cut grass. The world looked so ordinary, even after everything had cracked open. That's when I realized that's what survival is. You stand back up in the middle of ordinary, carrying extraordinary scars, and you keep breathing anyway. I pulled out the wrong name tag from my tote, ran my thumb over the plastic. Proof. Ellis was still alive, moving somewhere in the shadows, and one day soon I'd bring him home. Not for revenge now, not even for justice, for us, for love. I closed my eyes, whispered into the evening air, "I'll keep the porch light on for you, baby." And for the first time since that awful funeral, I let myself smile. Now that the storm has passed, I sit here with the night pressing soft against my windows, the cicadas singing like a lullaby. My heart carries scars, yes, but it also carries proof that strength don't wither with age. I faced betrayal from my own blood and still held my head high. Ellis's watch ticks steady on my wrist, reminding me that real love outlasts lies. So tonight I'll pour a cup of tea, let the fan hum gentle in the corner, and breathe easy knowing I survived what was meant to break me. Share this story with one person who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more late-night truths with Auntie Clara.